everybody, welcome back to Q-Tips. We are the Video Store Junkies, and we are back once again to bring you a few selections to watch over the weekend on streaming. And we're going to get right into it, and I'll throw it to Paul.
Why, thank you, Renee. Well, we're hitting the Christmas season. Well, we're deep in the Christmas season, I guess. And so, what's a better theme than violent Santa Clauses? So my first one is a good guy violent Santa, and it's the film Violent Night, starring David Harbour. It's directed by Tommy Wirkola, who did Dead Snow, and written by Pat Casey and Josh Miller, the two writers of Sonic the Hedgehog and Sonic the Hedgehog 2. This also stars John Leguizamo and Beverly D'Angelo, which always works for a Christmas movie. And it's Santa answers the wish of a little girl. The wish is that her rich family is rescued from the people who have kidnapped and possibly going to kill them. David Harbour is much like the title says, a very violent Santa. It is amazingly fun, amazingly violent. Just super fun. It came out last year. Oh, Paul, where's it playing? That would be nice if I told you. Why, it's playing on Amazon Prime. So if you're looking for some violent but fun and surprisingly heartwarming Santa action, you couldn't go wrong with Violent Night, playing on Amazon Prime. And speaking of violent good guy Santa Clauses, I'll pass this to Zach.
Ho, 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 Paul. That's all I got to say about that. Okay, well, my first couple of recommendations aren't really holiday themed, although my first one does take place during the winter, so I guess that counts, right? Although it's set in Canada, so I don't know if they have any seasons other than winter. So I don't know if that counts. But anyways, so if you listen to this podcast at all, I love zombie films. I love all sorts of zombie films. I'll never get tired of zombie films. I know a lot of people are very tired and have been very tired of the genre for a long time. But if you're like me and you can't get enough, I've got a couple of recommendations this week. And the first recommendation I have is one of my favorite, actually, I'm just going to say one of my favorite zombie films of all time. I'd say it might even be a top five, definitely a top five if you're not counting any of the Romero films. But the film is Pontypool, and it is playing on Shudder and AMC Plus. And I almost don't want to say too much about it. It's one of those. It's a limited, kind of an isolated space horror film. In other words, like almost the entire movie takes place in a radio studio, and it's about a night that gets progressively weirder and weirder as the disc jockey starts to hear about these outbreaks of violence. And you quickly figure out that it is a zombie outbreak, but this one's a little bit different. And I almost don't. Yeah, I don't think I'm actually going to give away any more than that. I would say don't. If you like independent horror films, don't read up any more than what I've just said. Just go check it out. It's an interesting. It's an original take on the zombie genre, which is let's face it, pretty much impossible to do these days. But people are still figuring out how to do it. Like I said, it's on Shudder. It's on AMC Plus. We've actually mentioned this one a couple times because it also features Boyd Banks, who's a Canadian actor who's been in a number of movies that we've talked about, actually. Jason X and Land of the Dead among them, and I love him in this movie. But it's a very, very interesting. I'm gonna say, even if you don't like zombie movies, you might like this one because it's so different from your average zombie movie. So check it out, Pontypool. Not to be confused with my recommendation from last week, Pootie Tang. Although, as Renee meant to mention at one point, it would make a great double feature, the Ponty Tang double feature. And speaking of Renee, I will pass it over to her for her first recommendation.
Well, thank you so much. My first recommendation is a relatively new movie, and it is available on Shudder and AMC Plus. This movie is called The Sacrifice Game.
Yeah.
And I have to tell you, I don't know who is in charge of these decisions. Whoever named this movie and whoever did the art for this movie, they just did a great disservice to this movie. It is one that I actually put it in my list to watch, but I was not inclined to get around to it anytime soon. I thought, oh, that looks kind of interesting. You know, it's a story about these girls that are stuck over the winter at this boarding school, and then this cult arrives, and just everything just goes amok. They have to try to survive the night, basically. And on the cover art, it shows the cult members and all of their little punchable faces. They are not they are not the ones. This in the movie there's these girls. Rose, she's the gal that is the headmistress of this boarding school, and these two younger girls, Samantha and Clara, are there. These girls don't have very many credits to their names, but they were so good. It takes place during the 70s, and it was just really great. Rose was in, or the girl that plays Rose was in the movie The Ranger, which I believe we had recommended once before. That's a great movie. But this movie is just great. I would say do not sleep on it. You might see it and you might think, I'll get around to it at some point. Do not do that. Watch it. Watch it right now. And then watch it again. It's really, really good. I recommend it. And that movie is called, what is this movie called? This movie is called The Sacrifice Game. See, that's how you know it has a really shitty title, because I can't remember it. I really like the movie and I couldn't remember the title. So that being so, and where am I? And you can watch this on Shudder. You can watch this on Shudder and AMC Plus. And I'll pass this back to Paul.
Well, thank you, Renee. And I want to actually second both of your guys' recommendations. Definitely Pontypool and The Sacrifice Game. And if you caught The Holdovers in the theaters, it's The Sacrifice Game is a good follow-up because it's got a similar setup. So, but my second film, I was talking about Violent Santas. So the first one was a good Violent Santa. This is a bad Violent Santa. From 2005, this is Santa's Slay, spelled S-L-A-Y, and written directed by David Steinman, and it stars Goldberg, or Bill Goldberg, who's a professional wrestler as Santa. But see, the thing is, you don't realize Santa was actually the devil's child, and he lost a bet with an angel and had to spend 1,000 years delivering toys and doing good. Well, that 1,000 years is up, and he's ready to kill lots of people. And it is really fun and really funny. The cold opening has a bunch of celebrities like James Caan and Rebecca Gayheart and Fran Drescher and Chris Kattan. And it's Robert Culp is in there as Grandpa, not during as the cold open, but later. It is just super fun, super violent, absolutely hilarious. Highly recommend. Oh, but Paul, where the hell is it playing? Why, it's playing on Fubo, USA, which you can actually, like, as in USA Up All Night, or it's also a pretty good version of it's on YouTube as well. Just fun stuff. It is one I think that needs to be in the Violent Santa Christmas rotation. Highly recommend it. So again, that's Santa's Slay, S-L-A-Y, from 2005 on Fubo, USA, and YouTube. And speaking of people who've lost a bet with an angel, but that 1,000 years is up, I'll pass this to Zach.
You got me. Well, you guys better watch out, because I agreed to do this podcast for 1,000 years, and actually I do have 997 years left. So that's how long you can look forward to this podcast going. Anyways. So I'm going to actually, my second recommendation, I've got a couple of recommendations, and I'm going to kind of pull a Bill. Bill loves YouTube, and I'm always like, Bill, who watches stuff on YouTube? Who watches whole movies on YouTube? And then I realized that if you have a smart TV these days, you can just like, you have a YouTube app on the TV, and then you just like, load up a movie, and if it has a good resolution, then it's actually not too far off of watching something on another streaming service. So anyways, I'm going to correct myself from the other week. I mentioned my favorite zombie film of all time, Dawn of the Dead, was not streaming anywhere. And that is actually not true, because apparently it's actually streaming on YouTube. And not only is it streaming on YouTube, you can find like at least 3 different cuts, if not more, because there are like a million cuts of this movie. So you can find there's the I don't even remember exactly what each one of them is called. There's the shorter, there's the US cut, which is a shorter one. There's an extended version. There's a full version. They range from like 2 hours to 2.5 hours. So if you have access to a smart TV, because you're gonna want to watch this on a big screen, you don't want to watch this on your computer. But yeah, check out Dawn of the Dead. It's on. You can just go into YouTube, type in Dawn of the Dead, and you can choose your preferred cut. And I'm also, as I was thinking of recommending this, and I was realizing that maybe it's actually okay to recommend things on YouTube because yeah, people watch things on YouTube these days. I realized that there were a couple of other zombie movies on YouTube that we have never recommended, so I'm actually making this a threefer. So the second and third recommendation that I have this week. They are not streaming in 1080p, so they're not going to be they're not going to be like you would. Oh, I don't know. Maybe they are. I've noticed on like Prime sometimes you just get videos that are basically VHS quality, and I'm not making that up. I'm not being facetious. They literally just put a VHS rip up there. Anyways, so you can watch the following films in 480p and 360p respectively.
Oh, wow.
But this is something. These are movies that we've actually talked about. I think repeatedly on the podcast. Because the two films I would like to suggest you go watch on YouTube are Fistful of Brains and A Few Brains More, Summer of Blood. That's right. You can go find them on www.youtube.com. For those of you who don't know what these are the movies that Paul and Bill and myself worked on. If you watch A Few Brains More, you might be asking yourself, what does Paul actually look like in real life? Well, if you watch A Few Brains More, you can see Paul in all of his glory, the most beautiful mustache you will ever see in your life. And yeah, so this is maybe for those of you who've been listening to the podcast for a while and have heard us mention these movies, now you can go watch them. They ain't pretty, and I'm not just talking about the bit rate, but yeah, that's a little special, a little extra special recommendation because hey, you're gonna need some stuff to watch over the holiday, right? So there you go. So yeah, that's a triple feature on YouTube.com. Dawn of the Dead, Fistful of Brains, and A Few Brains More, Summer of Blood. Apparently not very tempting because I noticed that A Few Brains More has been up on YouTube for 6 years and it has just over 800 views. So, oh well. So speaking of the one person whose reputation has not been besmirched by being involved in these films, I will pass it over to Renee.
Well, thank you so much. I thought you were going to say the one person that is responsible for at least 100 of those views.
Have you seen these movies? Have you
I
actually
actually have
watched them?
seen both of
Oh,
those
okay,
movies.
okay. Nice.
Amazing. There are so many gifts to be made, and I am just waiting for Bill to get me that high quality copy. So I'm actually going to hijack Paul's theme of Killer Santas. This is a story of a sweet young boy who really he went through a lot of trauma as a child. His grandfather has warned him that Santa will come and punish everyone that is naughty. He witnessed his parents being murdered by Santa, and he is just mortified. And he is grown up now in an orphanage. Mother Superior is there. She is just the worst. She just does not like Billy at all. Poor little Billy. So, as he gets older, obviously Christmas time is just a really traumatic time for him. He has just very trying times. Eventually he becomes an adult and he gets a job in a toy store right around Christmas time. And as you can expect, he gets a little bit triggered and things start to happen. And I don't want to give away too much, but I think you know where this is going. So this movie is called Silent Night, Deadly Night.
Yay!
Yay! It is a lot of fun. It has some great death scenes. It has a lot of topless ladies. It takes place in a toy store. Oh, just the toy store alone was so much fun. Like if you were a kid in the 80s, just that part was just so much fun. So this movie's great. It's a lot of fun. I do have a couple of notes that I found really hilarious. And Paul, we brought this up. Now, this is something I think that needs to be mentioned. So Paul is my brother-in-law. My sister married Paul. And she puts a lot of blame on us for the kinds of movies that we watch. But she's the one, like, she finds these movies, and a lot of times, now, of course, this is a bit of a classic, but she found out where it was streaming. She gave us the list of movies. This was on the list. She's really good at finding movie recommendations. So I'm just saying, I think there's a reason that she gravitated towards Paul, because she really likes these movies, and she just doesn't want to admit it. So this movie opened the same weekend as Nightmare on Elm Street. Now, granted, Nightmare on Elm Street did open in fewer theaters, but it actually outgrossed Nightmare on Elm Street. And it was very controversial, primarily due to the advertising campaign that put a lot of emphasis on Santa Claus being the killer. And the PTA, which, when you're in school and it's like, oh, we're going to have a PTA meeting. I never really thought that, like, the PTA was like a national organization. Apparently they are, or they were, and they protested and got this film removed fairly quickly. One of the problems, apparently, was that advertisements for this movie aired between episodes of shows like Little House on the Prairie.
Oh, Jesus.
So parents were complaining that their kids were getting freaked out. Oh, God, I love it. And then I guess at the East Coast premiere at a theater in the Bronx, there were protesters, and they picketed the theater, and they sang Christmas carols in protest. Oh,
wow, that's the sort of advertising you can't pay for. That's
right.
That's amazing.
Yeah, I think so. And so at Siskel and Ebert, they condemned the film.
Also great advertising.
Yeah, great advertising. They said, shame on you to the production crew. And Gene Siskel said that all of the money the filmmakers were making off of this film was blood money.
Oh, Jesus.
Yeah, Leonard Maltin denounced the film, calling it a worthless splatter film and citing it as a bomb and asking, what's next? The Easter Bunny as a child molester?
Oh. Wow.
People were so mad.
So you said that the film got pulled from theaters because of all this?
Yeah.
I mean, I feel like these days, like, you would take those quotes from prominent critics and put them on the poster.
Oh, like, absolutely right.
It's amazing.
And I guess before being filmed, before being pulled, the first 10 days of release, it grossed over 2.4 million. So it probably could have done pretty well.
Also, didn't this movie have like 4 sequels?
Oh my God! Yes, there's there's so many of them.
Which, by the way, I believe it's the second one that has one of the greatest moments in film history, the garbage day scene. I'll send it to you.
Oh yes, please.
Garbage day. Huh? No.
So I guess that's all we have. Does anybody want to? Paul was abducted mid-podcast.
Paul went to sell his bed, or at least that's what he told us. But yeah, I don't know. That sounds like a euphemism for something. So
definitely code.
I'll sing us out on the theme song for A Fistful of Brains, or A Few Brains More, Summer of Blood. Do you want me to go ahead and go? Okay, here we go. First they had a fistful of brains, but now they're gonna have a summer of blood, 'cause it's a few brains more, a summer of blood, a few brains more, it's gonna be good, oh yeah, a few brains more. That's all I got. I was
have you
not
ever
prepared.
considered a career in songwriting?
I have, actually. I've submitted over 730 songs to various recording studios and I've never heard back.
Wow.
Don't know why.
It's because they're jealous, I think.
It could be. It could be.
because they know that
Yeah,
you
they're
just
like,
take all the glory.
once this guy comes on the scene, every other songwriter is going to be eclipsed, and
Finished.
all of our big names are going to get really mad. So, yeah, I don't know. Could be. We'll go with that.
It's definitely what it is.
Yeah.
Santa's watching, Santa's waiting, Christmas Eve is slowly fading. Can you hear him in the night? Close the door, turn out the light.
For the weekend of December 15th, Paul recommended Violent Night, available on Prime Video, and Santa's Sleigh, available on Fubo and USA. I recommended The Sacrifice Game, available on AMC Plus and Shudder, and Silent Night, Deadly Night, available on YouTube and Plex. So I was actually going to open the episode being like, welcome to our Silent Night, Deadly Night ranking podcast, but I didn't want to spoil
I would absolutely sit down and do that. Just my point being, like, if there were 5 sequels and it was mostly only out on video, like, it must have done extremely well. Like, think of how much they could have raked in the money if they had kept it in theatrical release.
Could you imagine how much money they could have made?
Yeah.
So I guess they pulled the advertisements like a week before they pulled the film, which, yeah, I thought maybe I guess they were like, well, is this good enough? And they were like, nope. Sorry. Yeah. Oh my gosh, that's just I love it. And
now I'm gonna have to go down the rabbit hole on this. Oh, you know, it made like $2.5 million and only had a $750,000 budget. Like this movie still made a shit ton of money.
Right.
That's impressive.
And it was only right, like they only put it in for 10 days and still made. But God, could you imagine? Kind of, somebody was mathing it out of like how much it could have made.
If this movie had stayed in release, and if it had maintained its box office trajectory, like it would have been like, can you imagine a universe where like this is the series that had an installment every year for like a decade?
Oh my God.
Like, this could have been the nightmare. I mean, like I said, it still got 4 sequels, but yeah, this could have been the yeah. I mean, that's insane. $2.4 million in 10 days in 1984. Yeah, that's insane.
Bill, oh my God. Okay. I know. Okay. Maybe we need to record it to have it ready for next year, because Bill Moseley is in Silent Night, Deadly Night 3.
Yeah.
Clint Howard is in Silent Night, Deadly Night 4.
Oh my God.
Who's in Silent Night, Deadly Night 5? I don't know yet. I'm still scrolling.
Oh man.
Oh my God. So the second one lost money. And they kept going.
Really?
Mickey Rooney? Clint Howard is in this one too? Oh.
Santa's watching, Santa's waiting, Christmas Eve is slowly fading. Can you hear him in the night? Close the door, turn out the light. Santa's watching, Santa's creeping. Now you're nodding, now you're sleeping. Were you good for Mom and Dad? Santa knows if you've been bad. There might be a treat for you in Santa's bag of toys, but Christmas won't be fun and games for naughty girls and boys. Santa's watching, Santa's waiting, everybody's celebrating.